All right, meeting's open. Pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we go any further, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for the victims, families, and the thousands of people that are affected by the tragedy in Las Vegas. I guess I'll just leave it at that. But it's pretty heartbreaking to think about, how many thousands of people are affected. One person affects how many people in the family. It's just, so there's a lot of people hurting right now. So, moment of silence, please. Thank you. All right, hop into the minutes. I haven't looked. Make a motion to accept the minutes as written. Anybody have any?
No, second.
Good. All those in favor? Did everybody sign the poverty abatement?
No, I need Laura to sign these on the desk.
Okay.
I didn't know if you wanted me to bring it out.
Yeah, just obviously I just want to, so we don't forget. That's fine. You get a chance to read it? Couldn't
Well,
we?
that's what we talked about.
Yeah, I'm hoping, yeah. Hey Jenny, when Ruth reschedules, can you see if Tommy can come as well?
Okay.
Since it's road signs involved.
Yeah.
Is that where they appeal? I didn't know.
York County?
For poverty?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, actually
Remember,
we can.
didn't know.
Yeah, everything we have is, we could actually have some sort of board of appeals for those type of things if we wanted to, but we don't. So that's why, like, all that stuff, regular abatements go there, everything goes there. So, is that okay? I mean, I tried to.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, what do you got for me?
That's all I have.
You don't have anything? What do I have? Oh, I have this. We got this from the County of York, our county, and it was addressed. This was our copy, but it was addressed to the late Thomas C. Potter, care of Thomas S. Potter. Congratulations, you and other York County city/town winners of the 2017 Spirit of America Foundation Tribute for outstanding community service will be honored at a ceremony hosted by the York County Commissioners. The Spirit of America Foundation is a 501c3 public charity that was established in Augusta, Maine to encourage and promote volunteerism. You are encouraged to bring guests with you to enjoy the occasion. It's on November 15th in Alfred at 3:30. So I will hopefully plan to attend.
What day is it?
15th
Of
November
November.
15th.
November 15th is a Wednesday.
Could you put that on our Outlook calendar too, so we can? That's that. I got a Habitat for Humanity out of York County Habitat Luncheon and Affordable Housing Panel discussion on Tuesday, October 24th at Duffy's Tavern and Grill in Kennebunk. I don't know. There's an RSVP and there's a meal choice. It's 11:30 to 1:30. Panel will address the affordable housing challenges faced by municipalities in southern Maine. John Gallagher, Director of Maine State Housing, Southern Maine Planning and Development is going to be there. Planning and Development out of Kennebunkport, Workforce Housing Coalition. So it says there's an RSVP by October 10th. So that's a Tuesday at 11:30 to 1:30. I don't know whether I'll be able to. There's not a lot. I mean, in those things, it's nice to have that information, but we're not at our level. We're not doing planning for housing. We're not building public housing as a town like a city of Portland might, or
Right.
so it's you know. Chip.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Paul from Trains.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah.
I'm a little early, but
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, you can have a seat.
okay.
So. Sometimes we'd start early, but where it's a public hearing at 6:30, we really kind of can't, just in case people
Okay.
want. Just because people want to be here. So.
Okay.
So if you're wondering why we're not being on early, that's why. We've had a couple of complaints about registrations.
Mhm.
And so I happened to find a evasion of registration fee and excise tax form that we can send out. Did you make a copy of this for others or not? Just for me?
No, I didn't know if you wanted to.
Yeah.
do it first.
I'll just pass it around. So it's kind of one I found that was done in the past by it looks like Judy. I mean, you might have been here when they did. I'm assuming they got it. I mean,
I think legal had said this is what you gotta put on it or something.
I mean, again, there's not a lot of, but you
The
never,
honest people
but
will
you
do
never,
it.
but you never know.
The honest
right.
people will do it, the not
Yep.
honest people, the people that do it
Right.
are gonna be doing it.
But I think it's probably worth the 42 cents, 49 cents, whatever the stamp price is to send one out. I mean,
Absolutely, can't hurt.
right.
Can't hurt.
So, so I got one. I gotta get an address and stuff. So maybe next week we'll. Well, next week we'll. At least we have a process now. If we get that, we can do that. So I'll get that back to you, and can you see if you can't. There's a place referenced in there. See if you can't get an address. I can bring those up. Do you guys have anything?
I just had a question about what happened with the excavator. Obviously, I saw a different excavator digging up stuff.
Oh, So last thing of Tommy got a lot of it done with the backhoe.
Yeah.
So he didn't feel, now that everything got pushed out, one, nobody had an excavator available anymore.
Okay.
Because they're all out being used.
Okay.
So that was half the problem. The second thing is that he didn't need it for a month now. He only needed it for maybe a week, maybe two at the most, to do some of the things he couldn't do with the backhoe. Because he had a lot more time since everything got pushed out, and he just kept working with the backhoe. So then it was, is it, one, if I can even get one, is it even cost efficient versus just hiring somebody for a couple of those quick jobs? So I told him, I said, it's your call. I mean,
And who did he hire?
that I don't know. I don't know if he has already.
Well, there was one at the end of the road being used, so that's why I was like, what the heck happened?
Was it Tanya?
Yeah, Josh.
Boucher.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
I think they're done.
Yeah, I don't think he had to hire him very long. I mean, again, I think he just had a few things he had to get done that he couldn't do with. So,
They put in 3, 4 or 5 this week.
yeah, and actually, I just at this thing up there at the convention, I had they were talking. I went to that roads one. They actually talked about culverts. There we go.
Yeah.
I could not get.
yeah,
They talked about culverts, and I guess the prices have been skyrocketing.
yeah.
October 1, they just went up by 15%. November 1, they're going up by 15% again. I don't know whether there's. Oh, you know, I just thought about down south.
Probably.
All the work that has to be done is probably what's causing
Yeah,
the shortage.
probably.
So, like for all that hurricane stuff is, I bet you, is what's causing.
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, I texted Tommy today. I said, hey, if you need culverts, buy them now before November 1.
Mhm.
So before they jump.
So you
again.
think he's done with the culvert work,
I don't
or
know.
what he needs it for? Because I know West Lebanon, he'd already done Indian Lake and down in that area.
And I went by on West Lebanon this morning, and there's some culverts that had already been done. I don't know whether all of them.
Yeah, I
There's
don't know.
four that have been done.
Okay,
So.
I was just like, why is he doing that? I didn't.
Yeah. I mean, that's yep. Yeah, he had asked me. Sorry, I should have brought that up.
Mhm.
I think that was just last week though that we talked about that, because he basically didn't really need it, and then he couldn't get one.
Right. Okay.
So, did you have anything else?
No.
I'll bring those. We'll talk about. I got 15 minutes. I can get through codes. You got anything?
Well, yes, I have. Barnett went and looked at the firehouse.
Yep.
I told you?
No, I
No.
remember
Well,
hearing that, but I haven't heard.
He seems to think that the pipe that they have the drain to clean the trucks, it's in the building.
Mhm.
He seems to think that maybe that plugged up, and that caused that water to back up, and that's what made the floor sink.
Okay. But what about fixing it?
It can be fixed. There's 2-3 ways of doing it.
Okay.
Now this morning, yesterday, when I went over to Welch to bring those newsletter, what's his name? The kid, Welch's kid,
Tony.
He said that some contractor that buys from them, he saw when the chief had the thing about the firehouse.
Mhm.
So the guy's a contractor. He went up and he checked the building all over. And there's no cracks in the walls or in the foundation. And he said it's not a real big expense fixing the floor. Now he's saying using some kind of cement. And Barnett told me the same thing. It's a slush or something.
Okay.
So
All right.
everybody's on.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like it's a huge project. I mean, it's still going to cost money, but it's not astronomical anyways. So, all right. Update on code enforcement. So, Brian's been busy doing inspections, trying to get permits done. I even tried to get him for some more hours. He really can't. He's got too much stuff going on. we've got the 6 hours, and we're trying to do it as best we can. Jen got called into school for her sub stuff, so she's doing stuff in the evenings. She's just squeezing. I mean, she's doing it, but she's just doing it in off hours and getting it done.
So is she like answering? Is she checking the voicemails?
She's checking the voicemails, and yeah, I mean, it's. She just cleared them again because I guess his box is full. But I mean, she goes, they only have 15 messages, and I said, well, it's probably because of the length of them. If they're long, it's going to use up the space, and so I know she's cleared them, so there's only like 3 saved ones now. So she's trying to stay on top of it. It doesn't always happen, but it's So and she's been making calls back at night and stuff to people, and so we're trying. But there's work. There's inspections. There's permits. There's so we have several enforcement actions that are in the middle, beginning, whatever stage, and various stages that are also involved. And I gave you a copy of. We got 2 letters from the DEP, one on Wednesday, one on today, from Mike regarding shoreline zoning. The one that we got on Wednesday was regarding a building being put up on Sewell Shores Road that had no shoreline zoning permit. As well as a septic holding tank that was put in incorrectly or wrong as far as it should not have been allowed by shoreline zoning. They specifically do not allow holding tanks for those. And so he's made some recommendations. We're in the process. We are waiting for this to send out a notice of violation. And with what we wanted to be done. So that's in the process, and so I may end up doing it because I don't know where Brian is. Brian was going to try to get some templates from where he is at now to help. I have some templates as well, so again, I really want to get the notice out, which is it's a written notice.
Did we forward the permits that were issued to DEP? Don't they want them?
Which one are you looking at?
I'm looking at
the single page one.
Yeah. It says, although the department has not yet received a copy of the building permit and permit application from the town for this project, so-and-so stated that he had granted permits for both the construction.
Yeah, right.
So, do we have copies of those permits?
Well, there's a building permit. Okay, and I don't know if there's a septic one. I have to look in the file. I don't know whether
But they want copies of those, right? That we did that.
Yeah, I mean, he was assuming that those were at least issued, but the problem is that there was no shoreline zoning permit issued. There was no shoreline zoning even application, and so that's the issues. And so, the last paragraph on that first page, it goes, while the fact that the landowner began construction in accordance with the erroneously issued permits from the CEO seems to complicate the matter or creates an awkward position for the town, the department, meaning the DEP, has conferred with our legal counsel, and that was the Attorney General for the state, who has suggested that the landowner has not created a substantial or significant start in construction, that the permit is arguably not valid since it violates the ordinance, and the property owner's reliance on the permit was not reasonable because it is contrary to the ordinance.
Okay.
So again, and that kind of goes back to, there are laws out there, ordinances are laws, or local laws basically, and you can't say, well gee, you can't violate the law and say, well gee, I didn't know. That's never a defense. You can't just go in, and that's why, because laws are public, so you're supposed to know the laws. So that's
but...
No, that's what he's saying, is it creates a problem because you had to, but these guys are developers, this guy is a developer.
Okay.
Shoreline zoning is throughout the state.
Okay, so this person should have known?
The one they should have known better anyways, that's correct. So.
Okay, but we gave him the permit.
Building permit, not a shoreline zoning permit.
So the building permit was for what? To build?
Well, one, the building permit shouldn't have been issued without a shoreline zoning permit.
Okay.
So that's the issue.
So we're saying that it's the person's fault because they should have known they needed more permits?
Yes.
Or, so it's not our fault?
Well, Mike should have known.
Well, okay, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So,
no. I mean, I'm not. It's not a matter of. And again, it says here erroneously. Both permits were erroneously granted.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not there. But what they're saying is that the burden lays on the homeowner to make sure you get all the right permits. And again, there could have been federal permits. There could have been other state permits, and so that burden rests on the homeowner. Now, the homeowner or whoever. You would hope that they could go to the code enforcement person and they would tell you which ones you need correctly.
Absolutely.
So that's what you would hope that you could do, but obviously in this case it didn't happen. But because those are ordinances and they're out in the public and people are supposed to be aware of it, whether they are or not is a different story. I'm not debating that, but that's and this guy knows. I mean, it's not shoreline zoning isn't something that just came around last year. Mm-hmm. It's been out since the 70s, so it's been out since for 40 years.
So was he issued a stop work order?
So he was issued a stop work order, correct.
How far was he in the process when he got
it? It says right here. So again, so I believe it was footings because it said here, because it says here, the legal counsel has suggested that the landowner had not created a substantial or significant start in construction.
But did he stop when he was supposed to stop?
No, he didn't. But again,
so
that
that's
doesn't.
the problem.
Well, so there's two things. So at the time of the inspection, it was not a significant start.
And he continued anyway, or did he get permission, or did he just do it on his own?
No, he continued. The stop order was given verbally as well as one was placed there. He continued to pour concrete.
Well, that's...
Walls went up. He even went to the DEP. He even had a conversation with the DEP. So he knew. And so he basically knew he was taking that risk. So basically everything is done based upon the stop work order. He can continue until whatever. But it doesn't, I mean, he took, again, he's violating a stop work order. And that stop work order was given by our past CEO. So, that was the whole, so he should have stopped it.
So when he got the stop work order, he could have stopped and there wouldn't have been,
all this other concrete, that's right. So that's all on him. That's right.
Okay.
So what they're saying is because he did not start significantly, okay, that's why they say you can take it out. If there had been significant progress, then the courts normally then don't make them remove it. There may be other conditions, there may be fines, there may be other stuff, but they normally, cause it to be removed. And so I don't know what they would have done about a septic. They might still have, because this is not allowed, period. So they might have, even though if the building was substantially up, they still might have required the septic to be removed. Again, I don't know that. So
do we have to consult with our counsel about what to do?
So essentially we have to, this will help guide the notice of violation that we have to draft to him. So the town has to give him an order. Normally the CEO would do this, but again, we're kind of in between. And so we can't really sit on this now. We gotta, so we have to give him a notice of violation, which is going to order him to do something. If he does it, and I think it even says here, if he does it within 30 days, that's kind of the end, and nothing really happens if he does. So if we kind of use the wording that the DEP says here, then it's done. If he doesn't comply with that, then you have to go to court.
Okay.
Then that's when our legal will look at the notice of violation. I'll bounce that through them anyways, but nothing really happens if he complies. And you can actually have what they call even consent orders, where both parties agree, this is our plan, blah, 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 and we're going to do that. So there
is no way he can get a variance?
No, because again, actually in the bottom of this talks about, so he can try, so it's no different than anybody else in the waterfront. If they get denied, so he can, and so we can give him this notice of violation. He can appeal it. So he can appeal any action. The notice of violation is coming from the CEO, even though I may draft it. I'll have to make sure Brian's okay with it and our attorney, but basically it comes from the CEO. And he can appeal that. The appeal of that would go to our Board of Appeals. And so they then would have to hear it. They could grant it. They could not. Well, again,
it says right here.
Again, it's their separate body. And so they have to do their own due diligence. They can grant the appeal, they can deny the appeal. If they deny the appeal, then again, then he can then appeal that to higher and go to court. So that's how it basically would get to court. Would be, if he doesn't comply and we just take action. We take him to court to make him comply. If it goes to the appeal and they grant the appeal for whatever reason, we can appeal that ourselves.
Yes.
Okay, and so we can appeal that to a higher court. We can go back to the appeals board and ask them to reconsider. And the DEP can actually do that. Can go back to the appeals board and ask them to reconsider. And if again they allow it, we can then, and the CEO can. It's actually kind of like the CEO. Anybody can appeal it to a higher court, which quite frankly I would. Because again, I mean, if we're not willing to go to court and go to the mat on these, then our laws and our ordinances mean nothing. And so that's been half the problem for quite a few years, is that nobody follows through. So until we do.
And the landowner's got a copy of this.
Yeah, I believe, yeah. And Brian Paul got a copy.
Okay.
So that's that one. I got 3 minutes to do the other one. I'm just looking at my clock. The other one is on two outstanding shoreline zoning violations that have not been addressed. And quite frankly, it says, I'm writing down as a follow-up to our telephone conversation regarding outstanding shoreline zoning violations that were not properly addressed by the town's former code enforcement, Mike Bouillot. Specifically, and then it talks about two sites. One was a clear cut, and I mentioned that one about a clear cut along a stream. That happened back in 2015, I believe, and they did the investigation in December, and we got a letter in January 2016 saying there ought to be a heavy fine because the person cut it down knowing he needed a permit and he didn't get one. So
that one was intentional.
Yes, that was intentional. The contractor even told him he needed a permit. He said, cut him down anyways. There's been no remedial action. There's been nothing since then. The other one is a tree house, I could call it. It's a deck up in a tree. You can't miss it if you go down Sewell Shores Road. And so again, that was in violation. That was, I haven't read all of that one. I knew that one was out there, but I haven't read all of that one. But that's another one. There was even a picture with it there.
We went to check that out when Ben was here.
Exactly, and nothing's happened. Well, I don't know. Right. Well, and again, I mean, if you may have checked it out, but unless you decided to enforce it, and that's what he's saying, is nothing's happened.
Okay.
Something should have happened, and nothing's happened.
So that's 3 years ago.
Essentially, and how do I put this down? How do I? So it says, I'll read this slide. It goes, although the department understands the lack of enforcement action appears tied to the inactions of one individual, the former CEO, rather than being the general attitude of the town government, the department considers this inaction to be a serious and significant matter and is requiring prompt action by the town.
So this happened in 2015.
Yeah. Therefore, the department is providing the town another opportunity to initiate necessary enforcement action to address these violations as soon as practical before the department further considers initiating enforcement action against the town.
Really?
Yep. So, essentially, because of what's gone on the last 2 years or so anyways, we are in deep doo-doo. I'll make it PG. With the department, with the DEP.
Obviously.
So I have had good conversations with Mike Morse. He mentions that in this letter further on, if you'll read it. The department sincerely appreciates your refreshing perspective on these matters, blah, blah, blah. I'm not gonna continue, but, so I've tried to have a good relationship with them. They know we're trying, and so they want us to, we have to enforce the law. It's not our choice to not enforce the law. People, the residents vote on these things. Shoreline zoning, setbacks, is supposed to mean something. So, that's that. So, alright, so that's where we're at. So I'm trying to get Brian to help me with these, to try to get this stuff in action. Some of these are maybe quicker than other ones, some of them have a higher priority than others, but, you know, we're working on it. So that's kind of where we stand. It is now 6:30 or 6:32. Come on up, or have a seat here, or whatever, wherever you want. Oh, one last one, just quick, you can sit down while I do this, because I got a picture. So I brought the picture back from Deborah Dory Wilson, won first place in the municipal building or local landmark for the Maine Municipal Association's picture contest. So there you go, Deborah, we're gonna find a good place to hang this.
Nice job, Deb.
Great picture, so, good job. I'm gonna put it in here so it doesn't get. We have a couple other to mount and to put into picture frames that we're still waiting on, so, you know, a lot of these maps might go away, and we may use this wall to do that. So, because these maps you can't see, they're too small to see anything, so they don't really do anything up there, so. We're now doing a public hearing on trains, taverns, special amusement, right, Laura?
Yeah, absolutely.
Alright, you know this stuff better than I do now. Did Paul fill there? Paul filled out his application, which we have copies, you guys have copies of?
Yep.
So that's all done. I saw a check somewhere, you gotta check whatever.
Listen, that's my stuff.
So that's that.
Okay, I got mine.
You guys should have a copy of the special amusement ordinance.
Mhm.
Did we have a file as well in there
Yep, I have it right there.
for him? Okay.
And his liquor license is here.
Is in this stuff, yeah.
Yeah. You have the original, the one we have to do all the signing on for the liquor
I
license.
have that page that
Okay.
we, yeah, right here.
And then
Blue.
Yes.
we actually, yep.
Blue ink, usually it's
This
black.
is I know, they want blue now, because they say that way they know it's not a photocopy.
Right, that's why, yep,
Oh,
yep.
there we go.
That we know it's original, yep. So that's that. This is this, right? Oh, this was the previous stuff, gotcha. Okay. We don't sign this though? No? Nothing there to sign?
No, that's his, that's his.
Just these,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
these two?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give that back to you. Okay, Laura, I'm gonna let you lead, cause I don't know,
Well,
I don't know what I'm doing.
does the public have anything they'd like to say?
Don't all jump up and once.
Oh, well, I was
Any
waiting.
interested members of the public can say
I
something
actually
if you
have a
want.
question for Mr. Pelletier, because I've been trying to get in touch with him.
Okay.
So I went to your place, because you like Mary and I, like your Reuben sandwiches.
Yeah.
We went to your place and I was waiting for Mary, I was sitting in the handicap zone, and one of your security guards came out with a bunch of young ladies and didn't see me sitting in my car and decided to jump up on my hood and have a cigarette with the girls.
Really?
And he didn't damage my vehicle,
Mhm.
so that you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about that. But I did try to contact you through trains, and I've never been able to. But I just wanted to alert you of that situation. I was a little
You know what he
disturbed
looked
that
like?
he
Was
thought,
it recent?
yes.
What did he look like?
Yeah, I'll tell you afterwards because I don't want to
Okay.
put that on here. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to tell you I was a little disturbed by the fact he thought my car was a bench just because it was in the handicap spot.
Might be the guy I fired not that long ago.
I hope so.
So is that all? We're just supposed to
Well,
deal with.
we can ask, he can tell us anything, the public can ask questions and,
So I'll ask, not that it's not really for me, I'm trying to put my general public hat on. Any kind of nightclub, bar, whatever, they're always worried about either underage drinking or too much, serving too much. Where's the cutoff for people? How do you handle that? I mean, I know, I don't tend to frequent, my wife goes there sometimes. I mean, she's seen some guys pretty trashed that seem to be still getting drinks. And so how do you, now granted, that person could be walking for all I know,
Well,
but it's.
there's a lot of people that come with a designated driver. Yeah, and when we have, we get in there, everybody's been trained, they're all tip certified from the state, which is supposed to only be done, it used to be every 3 years, now it's every 5 years, but we still do it every year, just because sometimes you get new people, refresher, all that on top of it. So when you have that, because it's about a 3.5 hour course, and it goes through how to watch how people are talking, how they're acting. Like you can see somebody when they first come in, and then a couple hours later, how they act a little different, and just the actions, their eyes, how they talk, their walk. During the course of the night, as it starts to get later, they watch people walking up to the bar, and you can see how they're walking, and at that point, you make a session, whether or not.
But if they say they have a designated driver, do you still then serve them?
We don't serve them until we talk to the designated driver and we make sure that person hasn't been served.
Okay.
Yeah. The designated driver is a designated driver. It doesn't mean, I only had two.
Well, right.
That they do that.
No, but the other thing is, he's my designated driver, let me have another one.
Yeah.
And it's not,
Right.
I mean.
No.
And there was no intent to be the driving.
We check it, sometimes, I've only had a couple, I don't care, you're the designated driver, so that's it,
Yep. Okay. I think there used to be fights, so it seems like you guys have gotten.
The first like 6-7 months that we were open back, it'll be 6 years next month that we've been open. It just like any other new place that serves alcohol, you don't know who all the light term is, all the shitheads are.
Yep.
And that have been kicked out of every other bar. You just don't know who they are, and then so we've cleaned that all up and have pretty much a zero policy now for anything that happens. So.
All right.
And we've never had a violation. It'll be 6 years that we've been open, and they state randomly sends underage people in, and we've never had an issue with that. So,
do you card Jordan if he goes there?
You get crowded everywhere he goes.
I had that. I hope he's watching. That was done just for him. You had a question?
I did. So one of the things that the state police mentioned when they were here was, and one of the things I hear often is not so much about fight or drunk drivers, but people that spill out into other areas of the town and are like knocking on people's doors or going to other places. And I know that there have been a few issues in your parking lot. So I was just wondering if you were intending to increase security in your parking lot, like where you can keep an eye on things
we
in
do
your parking lot.
on the nights that we have live entertainment. We have
good entertainment too.
Thanks. We have 3 security people on, and every 20 minutes they rotate and somebody does a parking lot walk.
And I mean, at the end of the night, at the end of the night, when everybody's going home, I know that there were a couple of issues down there where there were people left over when your staff had gone home, and that they had to have the police and ambulance called there. So not so much while everything's going on, because you do have the security, but after the fact, like when people are leaving, do they make sure there's nobody left in the parking lot that's having a
There should be
problem?
nobody left in the parking lot. Either that or they're waiting for a ride to come pick them up.
Or sometimes they leave their car there
And
and
they leave
somebody
lots
else
of times
drives
that
them.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if they're yakking, socializing outside, do you guys kick them out and say, "Hey, time to go"?
We tell them, "Hey, we're closing soon, so you guys need to go." But we have people now. There's 2 businesses there too, so there are people that's a lot of confusion, because if there's a call that comes. So just to clarify too, because we had 12 calls to the property last year. 3 of them were tavern related, and none of them were fights. they were, basically what it is, it's little fender benders in the parking lot, you know, the place is busy and somebody bumps somebody and that's what it is. And then if there's an accident in front of the place, it gets toned out, as there was 4 of those calls that were accidents that weren't related, people pulling in or they're stopped and somebody texting and rams into the back of somebody. So for 2 extremely busy businesses, 12 calls in a year, that none of them.
Is the other half open 24/7?
No, we're open, we're open 17 hours a day. Okay. So, I mean, but a lot of people there are people that pull over and pull in that parking lot at night that are traveling on 202.
No, I know that.
They've been driving,
Yeah,
they sleep, they take a nap. I mean, you can't, it's the middle of the night. You know.
Well, I guess that was my point, is, I mean, if somebody's in the parking lot, I mean, you allow, even though it's a private parking lot, you still allow them to hang out there. You don't.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not disturbing, they're just talking, shooting a breeze, and not bothering anybody. Because before the tavern was open,
staff there forever. I mean, you gotta, you know. And
before the tavern was open, people always kind of hung out in the parking lot to a certain extent, you know, just shooting the breeze or whatever. But it is a common place. There's a lot of truckers pull in there, and we'll take a snooze. And
do we have taxi service? Are you guys able to call anybody to say, hey, to call somebody to get them a ride?
Do we have any we have, there's a taxi out of Sanford and one in Rochester that if somebody wants a ride wherever they go, and we'll call.
Or if you see all of a sudden they don't have a designated driver, but you see obviously they got a little bit too much. Do you guys tend to?
Oh yeah.
You guys call that to get them?
Yep. And if there's sometimes there's no cabs available too. That's a problem sometimes too. And we'll have them call a relative or somebody to try to, you know, get them a ride. And we've even given people a ride home before. So.
Anybody else? Oh, then.
Anything? I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
What's the second? All those in favor?
Alright.
Alright.
So now,
Blue pens?
oh, sorry.
So now what are we doing?
We have to sign the liquor license.
You start. I'm just gonna follow your lead.
Motion to accept that?
Yeah, I guess we do. We probably ought to make a motion, huh?
Yeah.
What are we making a motion to accept the?
Well, we're gonna
Approve it.
To approve I make a motion that we approve Trains Taverns. Is that your official name, Trains Tavern?
Yeah.
Okay. To approve Trains Taverns special amusement permit. And I guess liquor license along with it, right?
Yeah.
And liquor license along with it. That was the second? All those in favor? All right. Thank you, Deborah. Keep me on my toes.
Good job.
It's been a long day.
It has.
Laura and I have been up in Augusta all day.
Alright, blue pen.
So, yesterday and today. So, big MMA.
Never mind being in meetings, then the drive there back, and
And then just make sure you make a copy. And then sorry.
Make 2 copies, so that way you guys can have one. I'll keep a copy, and the original goes to the state.
They charge us 25 cents a page.
I pay my $75 fee.
Not anymore, they've been very good.
Is the second page of this or something?
There's a,
Yeah.
There's a whole,
Yeah,
but
so
that's
just-
the one that.
So yeah, just make a copy of the whole thing.
Yeah, she has a copy of everything.
Cool.
Excuse me, Chip, can I just ask you a question quick? Is that those letters that you wrote, are they now public documents?
Letters I wrote.
The letters that you read, are they now public document?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's not now, they always are. They always were. So
Well,
it's
I
not
know,
really,
but-
yeah, I mean, it's, in my mind, I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming they are. I don't know why they wouldn't be. I mean, it's not legal. It's nothing, it's not legal communications. It's not confidential, so.
They would
Yeah. So.
squash a lot of arguments.
No, I just, yeah, I mean, yeah, so. Yep, what else we got? Oh, you're just waiting for copies, right? So, good.
What about Emery Mills Road? What's going on with that one? You know, didn't we have a stop work order on that? I think that was probably 2 years ago.
The one on the right, which
Yes.
is kind of the
Yes, because there
semi-
are lights on.
the
I went
wetland.
by the other night at night and there
Yeah,
were
I
lights
don't-
on and I don't know what he's doing. He's putting up,
I've seen, there's a,
just saying.
that one,
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, Paul, thank you.
okay, Paul.
Thank you.
That one, Emery Mills Road, is that file.
But is that in legal's hands or, cause he's
no,
doing
that's-
things.
That, well, right now, that's in nobody's hands.
I thought legal was working on that. Is
It's
that not true?
partly the reason this file is so much is because it has been to court ordered fine, there's been in the past,
Yeah,
there's a lot of history here, so
Yeah.
I don't have, right now it's nothing.
Yeah.
So some of it may be health officer type of stuff versus DEP wetlands, cause they're
Yeah.
allowed to, so yeah, I don't have a
he's
handle.
doing stuff.
And I have to, some of this was actually done in Brian's time as well.
Yeah. I know.
So this is kind of on hold because I need to have a code enforcement that can go down there and kind of regroup, look at the file, go down there, regroup, figure out what's
Didn't
going on.
DEP go there too though?
Yeah.
They did, but I've looked here and some of the stuff they were okay, some of the stuff they weren't, but it wasn't huge, so it's kind of a murky area, and so
Okay.
I don't have a good.
Well, he's continuing
What's
whatever
that?
he's
Can I
doing.
go home?
Yes.
It's in the
No,
sewer?
I've heard the same
There's
thing.
lights on.
Yeah,
He's
I've heard the same
putting
thing.
wood around. I mean.
Yep.
It's in the middle of the
Well,
water.
Mike told me there was nothing he could do.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, is I don't know whether that's true or not, and that's
I don't
why
think that's
I need,
You know,
I
somebody
need a
tells me
I need
something,
a,
I've gotta believe it.
you know, I need a
Somewhere.
yeah. But I need a competent CEO that can go down there and kind of regroup and tell me what's going on, and,
Put the
I've got-
foundation under the.
I've got
Mobile
too many
home.
other fires
Mm-hmm.
to put out right now with versus. Oh, I said fires to put out, you got a fire?
Yeah.
No, I have a question
Okay,
or a statement.
a statement?
But if that guy was on Sioux Shores Road, you would have been to his house already, handed him some paperwork, right?
No,
Yeah, you just said he has been building for how many years?
2.
And nothing's been done.
no, it's not, that's not an enforcement action. So
Well, it says-
there's
Well, there's been things going on there.
Yeah.
There's been things going on there a lot longer than 2 years, actually.
Yes.
If you look at the file, it's been
Yes.
more like 10 years.
Yeah.
And so it's been an ongoing case. There's been enforcement action in the past with him
Mhm.
that he's been forced to comply with. And so there is some wetlands there. So again, I don't have a good handle on it, and I don't have a definitive yes or no, and I don't know this history. So there's questions, did he fill in a pond? I don't know. There's a question about that. So I mean, I can't go down there and say he did because I didn't know there was a pond there. So there's not a lot I can do. So I need somebody to go down there. So a lot of the things I'm doing now, Sewell Shores, I've had a CEO there. I've had DEP there. So the DEP Cameron, who's the other person that went down there, they wrote up a report fairly recently that they were within guidelines. So some of this stuff is health officer, not shoreline zoning or something else. So
So Cameron, according to Mike, Cameron basically works with Natural Resources Protection Act.
that's correct. And so that's a wetland versus a
Right,
shoreline,
wetland.
which is what that is down there versus a stream.
But Mike told me, DEP Mike, told me he had also been down there.
Yes, I know that. Yes, they both have been. Yes.
In the last, I don't know when, I have to go back and look at the minutes, but when you questioned Mike on this, and then the last thing that was said was you were sending it back to legal. Again, did that ever get sent back to legal?
Again, no, the part of it was
Yeah, stop
legal, but then
recording.
legal said that, well, it was winter, so they had to wait till the spring. So again, it's been as you can see, the file,
Yeah, this
it's
is
not,
October.
so yeah, again, I got,
In violation of a stop work order, if nothing else.
well, no,
And
there's
so
not,
that's
no,
been
there's not,
lifted.
no,
Was
there's
it
no,
lifted?
there's not a stop work order.
I thought there was a stop.
There was a
order.
stop
No,
work
no.
order, Chet.
Not on him?
I don't think so.
Yes, there was.
Look through the file.
You better look through that file, cause Mike said
Well, there was,
I should say, Mike said there was.
a long time ago, and you don't know what the notice of violation was, and if he complied, then the stop order is lifted.
Well, that's what I'm asking you, cause when he was
I
here
don't-
just a little while ago, a couple of months ago, he said the stop work order had not been lifted and that he had talked to Mary about it, but Mary had told you
Again,
kind of everything was done.
I don't have the past CEO here to question.
Right.
I'm not sure I would believe what I heard anyways. So I have the file, and there's nothing in the file that says it's a current stop work order on the property.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a problem when stopping some people or making them dig out a foundation or a septic or whatever and not stopping other people that are in violation. I don't think that's fair. You know, the residents on Emery's Mills Road have been complaining about that whole entire thing for years now and wanting it stopped, and I had thought it was.
I have DEP letters, okay,
Yeah.
for the ones that I'm talking about that we're taking enforcement action on. I don't have a DEP letter on this one.
So is that what you need?
He just sent me ones from 2 years ago. He didn't send me one for this one, and he's well aware of it because he's been down there himself.
Yes, he has.
So my point is there's a priority scheme. While it may not be fair to everybody, I only have a code enforcement officer for 6 hours out of a week.
Right, and I do understand that right now.
So I have to. I have it there that I'm going through. I have to prioritize what we're dealing with, and I have to. And one of the ways to prioritize is based on what the DEP is prioritizing, based on the letters they're sending me.
Right, I understand that.
And a shoreline zoning violation. This is not shoreline zoning.
Correct.
This is natural resource or it's health officer stuff.
Okay.
Which again, health officer is also the code enforcement officer, but it's not anybody else's health. It would be a different story if it's other people's health.
Yeah.
This doesn't affect anybody else's health.
Right.
It affects the people that are living there's health, but it's not. Well, I mean, there's a certain amount of self-responsibility there as well.
True story, yes.
So
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, so if I have to prioritize, that's what I'm trying to do. So, once I can put some of these other fires out, then I can have them go down there. But I got,
So it's not tucked in that drawer and forgotten. It's
that drawer is my active drawer. That CEO files are in there. I pulled that out of there to be active. So, but I put it in there because my bag is only so big. I can't carry everything with me. That's my overflow bag in there. Literally, that's what it is. So it's on my docket. I just, I have to prioritize. So.
Okay.
And in the meantime, there's lots of people out here that are trying to do projects legally with permits that need inspections, that need permits, that need plumbing permits. And so, am I supposed to make them all wait because I got a couple of bad apples out there that I got to spend all this time with? That's not fair.
No, and I wouldn't exactly classify some of them as bad apples because they thought they.
Well, there's violations. Well, no, it's violations.
Yeah.
I'm using it as a. I'm not saying that individuals are that way. I'm just saying I have some enforcement. I'm not.
There are some bad apples that get legal permits.
But I'm not going to spend I can't spend all my resources on that and let all these people that are trying to do things right wait forever. So, so.
Yeah, I understand. I just don't want to see.
It's a balancing act. Trust me. It's just a.
I mean, I understand why the waterfront is important.
Well,
it's
one slip through the crack. I hate to say it. I'm dealing with an awful lot that have slipped through the cracks.
I know.
So that's why we're in the position we're in. And I won't be surprised if more come up.
I think there was a worm or two in that apple.
Yep. So, what else we got? I expected it to be a longer meeting, to be honest with you. You got anything else? Do you got anything for us? All right.
Executive session.
Oh, crap. I didn't look at that. What's
Yeah,
that?
swear.
That's the property.
Craps.
Property.
Yes, it is.
Crap's okay.
Craps.
I make a motion, we go into executive session for property abatement per 36 MRSA 841-2E.
Do you expect a decision or a motion?
Haven't got a clue.
I'll wait. Yeah.
Second, all those in favor?
Why? No. I didn't say you would.